Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy Fitzmonk TV here, aka G-Lauren33. I want to welcome you guys back here to the Legit Shoot podcast. We are going to be talking about Sasha Banks and Bayley today. We're going to be talking their feud, and I'm going to give you guys two different scenarios on how I would book the feud. This is a legit extra. You guys know that I do these little bonus episodes of the podcast every once in a while. I was planning to do a whole stream discussing this, but I've become very busy here in the early fall, so please forgive me for that. I usually try to keep these extra episodes around 20 to 30 minutes just because we're focusing on one specific topic, so I want to get to the point really quickly. But you guys know, especially since we're talking about Sasha Banks, this could easily go an hour. Hopefully it won't, but you guys know I'm really passionate about Sasha Banks because she is my favorite on the main roster. But one quick thing, I'm posting this on September 10th, 2020, which is a Thursday, so definitely if you guys haven't already, go check out my Monday Night Raw review on the channel. As always, I give you guys the best reviews in the community, so make sure to go support that if you guys haven't already. But let's get into it, alright? Don't want to waste any time. I'm going to give you guys two different scenarios on how I would book the Sasha Banks and Bayley feud. And it depends on when Sasha Banks returns. All right. They started the Sasha Banks and Bayley feud last Friday on SmackDown. It was shocking because a lot of us saw that we were going to get the feud eventually, but we didn't know when the breakup was going to take place. We didn't know if it was going to take place at Clash of Champions or Hell in a Cell or, somewhere down the line. But they did the breakup angle. And yes, I did videos on this last Friday. The breakup angle itself was great. It's just the execution could have been a lot better. And I wish there was fans, I wish the commentators played it up a little bit more. I wish, the referees got involved instead of just watching from the outside. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. What matters is we're finally getting the Sasha and Bayley feud. The feud we've been wanting on the main roster for so many years. They've been teasing us with this for 5 years. Remember a couple years ago when they did the whole enemies, frenemies angle, and they teased us for legit a whole year with that feud in 2018? Well, we're finally getting it on the main roster, and I couldn't be more excited about it. But I do have some worries about this. So, if you guys saw Monday Night Raw, we saw Drew McIntyre return. And just 2 weeks ago, he was attacked by Randy Orton, and he got punted in the head 3 times. 3 times. Back in the day, getting punt kicked by Randy Orton once would probably leave you off television for a good 4 to 5 months, right? But Drew McIntyre, he gets punt kicked not once, but 3 times, and he's back in 2 weeks. I don't care if you're Brock Lesnar. There's no way you should be back on WWE TV in 2 weeks when you get punt kicked in the head 3 different times. And plus, they did the whole ambulance angle, and I talked about this, and we ranted about it on the Monday Night Raw review. Go check it out if you guys haven't already. And it pisses me off because, honestly, I would have had Drew McIntyre sit out at least one more week to help sell the injury. And we know WWE doesn't have any patience for good storytelling in 2020, even though the Sasha and Bayley feud has been patient. Because remember, they wanted to do the feud at SummerSlam with fans in Sasha's hometown, but COVID changed everything, and then WrestleMania and all that, right? So I'll give WWE credit for waiting on pulling the trigger for this feud. It's not like they could have waited any longer. But the reason why I bring up Drew McIntyre is we should honestly not have seen Drew McIntyre on WWE TV returning from those punt kicks until right before Clash of Champions in a couple weeks. All right. And like I said, WWE has no patience. No patience. They'll bring back anybody just for a cheap rating. So Bayley took out Sasha Banks on Friday, and WWE reported on their PR on the WWE website that Sasha had suffered a severe bone bruise and a compressed neck nerve, And if we were going by medical terms, like realistically, that would keep Sasha out for months, 3 to 4 months. But, this is just WWE, putting this injury in place for storytelling. We're probably going to see Sasha back before Hell in a Cell. Because we've heard rumors that they want to do a women's Hell in a Cell match, and that's really the only feud I can think of right now that would be worthy of being in a Hell in a Cell match. Plus, you have the story of, Sasha facing all the 4 horsewomen. The women's Hell in a Cell match is her match. Even though she hasn't won one yet, you've seen what she did with Charlotte. You've seen what she did with Becky, some of the best women's matches of all time. Imagine what she can do with Bayley inside Hell in a Cell. It's become her match. So that's knowing WWE, that's probably when she's going to return. And I would honestly keep out, and I hate it, I would honestly keep Sasha out till the Royal Rumble. Yes, it would be tough for, especially me, being as big a Sasha Banks fan as I am, it would be tough to see Sasha out of action till the Royal Rumble. But I wouldn't complain because the story is there. But I don't see that happening because WWE doesn't have patience. And I want Sasha and Bayley to happen in front of a live crowd. But we don't know. I've said this on the podcast over the last couple of weeks. Seeing how AEW, even though they don't have full attendance, AEW now has fans in attendance in limited capacity at Daly's place. I'm telling you, by the time we get to Survivor Series, there will be fans in attendance for WWE. I'm willing to bet money on it. Because the WWE's contract with the Amway Center and the Thunderdome ends at the end of October. So I could definitely see WWE working out something with somebody to get fans in attendance if things are looking better by the time we get to Survivor Series in November. I'm willing to bet we'll have fans by then, right? So I want the Sasha Banks and Bayley feud to happen at Royal Rumble going into WrestleMania, but it's going to happen before that. I can't see WWE delaying that. That's why I've come up with 2 different scenarios on how the Sasha and Bayley feud should be booked. And it's all going to depend on when Sasha Banks returns. We have no idea when she's going to return. I've been checking the dirt sheets. I've been checking with sources. Right now, there's really no indication of when she's going to return. And there's thousands of different directions they can go with this, but there is really no concrete answer when it comes to the Sasha and Bayley feud. Alright, we know that Sasha is going to be the babyface, most likely. Or at least tweener. Bayley's clearly the heel. I've been saying this for months. They're not going to turn Bayley back into a babyface. Even though it looked like it would be more likely that Sasha would turn on Bayley because of the frustration of Bayley not helping her at SummerSlam, Bayley, losing the tag team titles by tapping out to Shayna Baszler. It looked like the story was going where Sasha was going to, turn on Bayley because of frustration with Bayley, but they decided to swerve us and have Bayley turn on Sasha. And it makes more sense because I've been saying this, you're not turning Bayley back into a babyface. Bayley's been amazing as a heel, and everybody knows this. Bayley and Sasha have been the best thing on WWE TV all year. And Bayley's been one of the best heels in the company with her heel turn. You had her cut her hair, you had her, change her ring attire, you had her destroy the Bayley buddies, you had her come up with whole new music. She completely changed her character. There's no way, at least not right now, there's no way Bayley's going back to that old gimmick. And I don't want her to. I never want Bayley to go back to that old babyface hugger gimmick. I hated it to begin with. I like Bayley as a performer, but I was never into the gimmick. You're not going to make me believe in someone that goes around giving hugs. So that was one of the main reasons why it didn't make sense to me that Bayley would be the babyface. Especially all the little marks that and, insults that Bayley would take on Sasha on the side. Bayley saying, oh, some people are only meant to hold a tag team championship. And then Bayley's insulting Sasha by saying, I should never let you go after Asuka to begin with because of your history with the Raw Women's Championship and not being able to ever defend it, which I hate how they actually made a storyline out of that. But it makes sense with Bayley's character. They gave you all these tidbits. Bayley was not going to be turning babyface. Even if Sasha was the one to turn on Bayley, Bayley was not going to be the babyface in the feud. Everything made sense for Sasha to be the babyface. Plus, we've seen Sasha versus Bayley already, with Sasha as the heel as Bayley as the babyface. This time we need a role reversal, and this is I like where they're going with this. So yes, Sasha is an amazing heel, but she's also a great babyface as well. It's just that WWE doesn't know how to book baby faces, and they fucked up with Sasha as a baby face in the past. But Sasha can be a really good babyface. But Sasha's babyface run now needs to be different than what she was before. Sasha doesn't need to be a sympathetic babyface, but she needs to be a stone cold badass babyface. One that is a legit boss, take no prisoners, I'm going to walk in and beat your ass. If anything, she needs to be an anti-hero. If anything, if you're not going to turn her 100% babyface. Right? With Becky Lynch, you have to completely change her character, and that was for the best. That was for the best. Yes, I can complain about how Becky was booked once she became Raw Women's Champion last year, but Becky's character change into the man was incredible, and it was great. Sasha doesn't need a full, complete character change. Sasha as a heel and as a babyface, there's not much different. What you need to do with Sasha as a babyface is she needs to be a badass, take no prisoners. I'm going to come in, whoop your ass, take your title, and walk out. That's what we need from a anti-hero or babyface, whatever you do with Sasha's character. Because clearly Sasha's going to be the babyface in this feud. So now that I got that out of the way, where do we go with Sasha and Bayley? Where do I go with the fantasy booking? I've seen a lot of things on Twitter, and it's one of the reasons why it took me like a week to make this video is I wanted to think about this. I got to give a shout out to some of my friends like Mr. Sasha Banks on Twitter, Commander Christie. I've been talking with a lot of people, how do we fantasy book this? Because the timing, none of us expected it to happen, the breakup angle to happen last week on SmackDown. All right. And we have these pay-per-views coming up. Sasha's not coming back at Clash of Champions. And I would get really pissed if they did. I would do something like Bayley versus Naomi at Clash of Champions. But there's no way Sasha's coming back at Clash of Champions to face Bayley. I would not want that at all. If you're going to bring Sasha back, the earliest would be Hell in a Cell. Even though I would personally wait till the Royal Rumble or Survivor Series when you can have fans in the arena. Because this feud deserves to have fans. It deserves to be put on the biggest stage possible. But I'm going to give you guys two different scenarios. All right. I'm also going to do a little role acting. I'm going to, pretend like I'm Sasha Banks and give a return promo for her in a couple moments. But we'll get into that in just a sec. So the first scenario I would give is if Sasha comes back at Hell in a Cell. This is the first scenario, right? The second scenario is a mix of if Sasha comes back at Survivor Series or a Royal Rumble. There's really no difference between the second scenario. But this is the first scenario, all right? So this is the first scenario if Sasha Banks comes back at Hell in a Cell, which looks likely. Because we've heard the rumors that WWE wants to do a women's Hell in a Cell match. And like I said, it's really the only feud that makes the most sense to be in a Hell in a Cell match for the woman. We've seen Sasha versus Becky. We've seen Sasha versus Charlotte. Sasha versus Bayley would make the most sense. Especially since, the women's Hell in a Cell match is Sasha's match. Even though she hasn't won it, she's been the best performer in it, and she's been in all the women's Hell in a Cell matches. It's kind of like how Undertaker and Triple H have been in the majority of the Hell in a Cell matches for the men. All right? So if Sasha comes back for a Hell in a Cell, let's say she comes back after Clash of Champions, right? This is what I would do. Bayley goes up against Naomi, right, at Clash of Champions, because we've heard rumors that Naomi's going to be getting a push on SmackDown, right? So Bayley goes up against Naomi at Clash of Champions. Bayley clearly retains, because Sasha's going to be the one to take that title off her, right? So it doesn't matter when Sasha returns after Clash of Champions, as long as she, returns before Hell in a Cell. So Sasha returns after Clash of Champions. Let's say Bayley's cutting a promo or Bayley's having a match or something, right? And all of a sudden we see somebody come out in like a black tracksuit. And then Michael's like, is that somebody from Retribution? No, it's secretly Sasha Banks in the black suit, right? So he comes back and attacks and beats the shit out of Bayley, right? Throwing her around the ring, throwing her on the announce table, hitting her with chairs, trying to get, some payback for Bayley trying to end her career. Now I would have Sasha in the middle of the ring, and you could do it on that same night, or you could do it the next week. What I would do, I would have Sasha cut a promo like this. And forgive me, I'm doing this off the top of my head. Even though I've thought about this, I don't have like a script. You guys know I don't like really doing scripts. All right, but I like to give you guys that organic. But this is the kind of promo I would have Sasha cut as an either anti-hero babyface or, whatever, right? This is what I would have Sasha cut. I would have Sasha in the middle of the ring with Bayley either down or Bayley somewhere. But I think for the best effect, I would have Bayley in the middle of the ring and Sasha just over her. I was like, and I would have Sasha cut something down the lines like this. For the last year, I've been, your sidekick. I'm part of the reason why you became this vicious son of a bitch. Because remember, when Sasha came back last year with the blue hair, Bayley started turning heel. But she didn't fully turn heel until after Hell in a Cell, when she cut her hair, destroyed the Bayley Buddies, anything. So Sasha's like, I'm, part of the reason I entitled you to become this vicious character, right? I'm the one that turned you into this. And then after the WWE draft, after I lost to Becky in Hell in a Cell, I was drafted to SmackDown. And you know how easy it would have been for me to go after the SmackDown Women's Championship, to go after you right away, but I decided not to. I decided to take a step back. I decided not to be selfish because you are my best friend. You've always been there for me, right? And I decided I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be in support of you because you were my best friend. I'm going to take a step back and let you be the role model and I be the blueprint. I be the standard. And then Sasha mentions how every time she was on commentary with Michael Cole or had a backstage interview and everyone asked her, oh, Sasha, what if you went up against Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship? Every time I brushed those comments and those questions off was because I wanted to put our friendship first. I put our friendship before the championship, right? And then, every time you went up against a Naomi or a Lacey Evans or Alexa Bliss or a Nikki Cross, no matter who it was, everyone knew none of those opponents were the biggest threat to your SmackDown Women's Championship. Everyone knew at the end of the day, I was the biggest threat, and I always will be the biggest threat to your SmackDown Women's Championship. You know it, they know it, I know it. And every single time you had a championship defense, who was in your corner helping you out, helping you win matches? You think that you would have held that SmackDown Women's Championship as long as you have if it wasn't for me? How many times did I help you win that championship? Hell, at WrestleMania, after you didn't help me, after you let Lacey Evans pin me in the six-pack challenge, or the Fatal 5-Way, whatever it was, in that Fatal 5-Way elimination match at WrestleMania, after you let Lacey Evans eliminate me, after you let Lacey Evans defeat me in the Money in the Bank qualifying match, I still stood by your side. I came back during the WrestleMania match just to help you retain the SmackDown Women's Championship because I wanted to put our friendship first. I put our friendship first so much that I got jealous. I got jealous of watching you as SmackDown Women's Champion. That's why I was always looking at that championship. Do you know how many times I had to look at that title and not put myself first and put those thoughts in the back of my head of going after you? That's why when we won the tag team titles and you became Bayley Dostraps and I got jealous. Why do you think I went after Asuka instead of challenging you? Because I loved seeing you happy. And I didn't want to ruin your happiness by taking that title from you. But you never did. You never had the same feelings for me. You used me and our friendship to further your reign as SmackDown Women's Champion. And I've been blinded this entire time. The whole time I've been the sidekick when I should have been the boss, when I should have been the champion. But luckily, you attacked me. At first, I was heartbroken. I sat at home with my broken foot and my sprained neck, and I was heartbroken, thinking, why would she do this? Why would Bayley turn on me like this? But then I realized, and my eyes were open to the truth. You never saw me as a best friend. You used me as somebody to further your career, to further your reign as SmackDown Women's Champion. And now I'm actually grateful that you betrayed me in the way that you did. Because now I no longer have to suppress my desires. I no longer have to put you first. Now I can just focus on me and doing what I should have done over a year ago. I'm part of the reason why you became this character, why you became this role model, this selfish son of a bitch. And now, as the legit boss, I'm going to terminate you. I'm going to do what I should have done over a year ago. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to take that SmackDown Women's Champion. And I'm going to reign at the top of the SmackDown Women's Division like I should have been this entire damn time. And that's why I'm the legit boss. I'm the blueprint. I'm the standard. And then, you could have Sasha say something like, and you can bet or you can bank on that and just throw the mic down. I know, that it wasn't the perfect promo, but you guys get the point. So, you see those bullet points that I mentioned there, right? All those bullet points that I mentioned, Sasha could put that and mix that into a amazing promo, probably promo of the year. Because like I said, Sasha is very underrated on the mic. It's because Bayley does most of the talking whenever they were in the ring together. Sasha gets overshadowed. But Sasha's actually really good on the mic. Just look at the promos she cut like a couple days before Payback. And the promos she cut on Asuka. Sasha is amazing, and I cannot wait to see some of the promos that we can see between Sasha and Bayley, because there's just so much to unpack from their relationship. So that's how I would have Sasha return. I would have her cut a promo like that. Like I said, I'm not a WWE superstar. I can't cut a perfect promo, but you guys can see where I was going with that, right? So then we get the match in Hell in a Cell. Sasha needs to win at Hell in a Cell. She needs to win. She needs vengeance, because remember, Sasha, in my opinion, should have never lost to Charlotte at Hell in a Cell 2016 in Boston. I was there, one of the worst days of my life. Sasha should have never lost to Becky at Hell in a Cell last year. So Sasha needs vengeance for those first two Hell in a Cell losses. She needs redemption. Plus, Bayley attacked her, so Sasha needs to get payback as the babyface. Hell in a Cell is where you're supposed to have, or where feuds are supposed to come to a boiling point. So Sasha needs to get her revenge inside Hell in a Cell as the babyface and become SmackDown Women's Champion. So now you may be asking yourself, where do we go from here, Fitz, right? Sasha's already got her revenge, so what's the point of doing any other matches between the two after that? This is what you do. Sasha wins at Hell in a Cell in vicious fashion. She takes out Bayley. So Sasha not only becomes SmackDown Women's Champion, but she also gets payback on Bayley and puts Bayley on the shelf for a couple weeks. So then we enter into Survivor Series. So I don't know, who will be champion by then. Maybe we get something like Sasha versus Io Shirai versus Asuka in a triple threat match. That would be great. But it doesn't really matter. You can do really anything at that point. But Sasha goes into the Survivor Series. I would have her win her Survivor Series match. I would also have her defend the SmackDown Women's Champion against somebody. It could be anybody. It could be Naomi. It could be Lacey Evans. We don't know, because remember, we are going to have a WWE draft. But I would have Sasha defend the SmackDown Women's Champion between Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series, right, or whatever, and have her successfully defend the title, so we'll no longer have that curse where Sasha can't, defend a main roster championship and hold it longer than 30 days. All right, so I would have her do that, and between Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series, have her defend the title, have her, get over the 30 days as champion, have her win her match in Survivor Series, and then we enter into TLC. So now we're getting near the end of the year. What I would have Sasha do after that is go into TLC, and you could have her go up against anybody, right? Maybe you have her go up against a Sonya Deville. I would love to see a Sasha Banks and Sonya Deville feud. I think that would be really good. Or you could have her go up against Naomi or Lacey Evans or whatever, like I said. So Sasha defends the title at TLC. I would have Bayley return. I would have Bayley return at TLC around that time and cost Sasha the SmackDown Women's Champion. So maybe, Sasha loses the title to Sonya Deville. At that point, Sasha would have already had at least one title defense under her belt, All right, she would have held the title for at least 30 days, so we won't have to deal with any of that nonsense. And then you can continue the feud with Bayley, because now Bayley comes back and costs Sasha the SmackDown Women's Championship. So what happens after that? Right? Bayley returns, costs Sasha the SmackDown Women's Championship. It gets the title on somebody else for a couple weeks, right? So I would probably have Sonya Deville become the champion for that short amount of time. So then we go into Royal Rumble. So what I would do at the Royal Rumble, I would have Bayley regain the SmackDown Women's championship by beating Sonya Deville or whoever's the champion. I would have Sasha win the Women's Royal Rumble. I would have Sasha win the Women's Royal Rumble and then go into the Elimination Chamber. Catch this. Bayley now has to go against the odds, right? She has to defend the SmackDown Women's Championship inside the Elimination Chamber against 6 other people. Sasha's not in the match because she doesn't need to be in the match because she's already punched her ticket to WrestleMania by winning the Royal Rumble. What I would do is have Sasha interfere in the Elimination Chamber match, and people think, oh, Sasha's going to cost Bayley the SmackDown Women's Championship. The same way Bayley cost Sasha the SmackDown Women's Championship a month before at TLC or whatever. What I would do, I would have Sasha interfere in the Elimination Chamber match and help Bayley retain the SmackDown Women's Championship against whoever, right? And Bayley's like, what the hell? Why would you do that? And then because Sasha being that badass babyface is because I don't want to face anybody other than you at WrestleMania. I want to get the payback, my ultimate revenge on you on the ultimate stage at WrestleMania. So Sasha being a stone cold badass babyface helps Bayley win at the Elimination Chamber because she wants to beat her ass at WrestleMania for the SmackDown Women's Championship. So then we enter into WrestleMania. And then, Sasha's never won a match at WrestleMania, right? So then we have Sasha versus Bayley at WrestleMania. I would probably have it as the main event. But just us getting the match in Mania at WrestleMania would be great, right? So we get the match at WrestleMania, and Sasha becomes the SmackDown Women's Champion, getting her ultimate revenge, regaining the title from Bayley, ending Bayley's reign for good, getting that first WrestleMania victory under her belt, being Grandson Banks, and then I would have Sasha be the number 1 babyface on SmackDown as SmackDown Women's Champion, getting a reign like Becky Lynch, reigning over the SmackDown Women's Champion or the SmackDown Women's division for a year. I already have so many different feuds that they can do with Sasha over that time, but that's another video for another day. All right. The whole point is Sasha gets the payback on Bayley at WrestleMania 37, regains the SmackDown Women's Championship, and then goes on to finally get that long championship reign that we've been wanting for 5 years. And she reigns over the SmackDown Women's division for a year, elevating everybody in the process, giving us amazing feuds, amazing matches, amazing stories. So that's scenario number 1. So let me just recap it really quick for you guys if you guys didn't get it. So if Sasha comes back at Hell in a Cell, I would have Sasha win Hell in a Cell, become SmackDown Women's Champion, and then put Bayley on the shelf. Then, around 2 months later, right, I would have Sasha defend the title 1 or 2 times. So then she would have a reign over 30 days. Plus, she would no longer have that curse of not being able to defend a main roster championship. And then around December, around TLC time, I would have Bayley come back, cost Sasha Banks the SmackDown Women's Championship against a Sonya Deville or somebody like that. Then at the Royal Rumble, I would have Bayley regain the SmackDown Women's Championship, have Sasha win the Women's Royal Rumble, and then at the Elimination Chamber, Sasha has a stone cold badass babyface. I'd have Sasha interfere in that match, help Bayley retain the SmackDown Women's title because Sasha wants to beat Bayley herself at WrestleMania. Then at WrestleMania, Sasha as the babyface regains the SmackDown Women's Championship, gets her ultimate revenge on Bayley, and becomes the top women's star in WWE on the SmackDown Women's roster, getting her first WrestleMania victory and then going on to get that long title reign that she deserves. So that's scenario number 1. That's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2, and it's a little more simpler. Scenario number 2 is if you choose to have Sasha return at either Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble, right? Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see because the timing of Sasha's return is going to be critical for how this feud goes. Critical. So if Sasha returns at Survivor Series or before Survivor Series, what I would do, I would not have a women's, champion versus champion match. I would not do the typical, SmackDown Women's Champion versus NXT Women's Champion versus Raw Women's Champion. I would do, maybe you could do like the Raw Women's Champion versus the NXT Women's Champion. Give us Asuka versus Io Shirai. I feel like that would be great. But for Survivor Series, I would do Sasha versus Bayley, their first match at Survivor Series. Right? That wouldn't be a problem. We've seen championship matches at Survivor Series over the year. Right? We've seen, Rey Mysterio versus Brock Lesnar, and things of that nature. So it's not, a surprise. It's not unconventional for them to do a normal championship match at Survivor Series. They do it all the time. You don't have to do brand versus brand versus brand for all championships, right? If Sasha returns before Survivor Series, I would do Sasha versus Bayley at Survivor Series for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think we'll have some type of crowd, which will make that even more hype. And what I would do is I would not have Sasha win the SmackDown Women's Championship at Survivor Series. I wouldn't. I would have Bayley, by some kind of cheating odds, beat Sasha. I would do something like Sasha makes Bayley tap out, but the referee's not there. The referee's down or something like that. I would have Sasha make Bayley tap out, and everyone sees it. Then Sasha tries to wake the referee up. Bayley does some, snarky heel crap. Not just like some foot on the rope, but I would do Bayley do something actually like disgusting as a heel to get Bayley more over as a heel. I would have Bayley do some snarky crap as a heel, and then beat Sasha for the SmackDown Women's Championship. But everyone, but it's controversial because everyone saw Sasha make Bayley tap out, but there was no referee there. So then what I would do after that is then I would have Sasha go on to win the Women's Royal Rumble, right? You could do something to keep them from going against each other at TLC, right? You could do something there, have Sasha win the Women's Royal Rumble, then you can go the Elimination Chamber route if you want, having Sasha as the badass babyface, help Bayley retain if you want, and then Sasha goes on to defeat Bayley at WrestleMania for the SmackDown Women's Championship, getting the Grand Slam victory, also getting her first WrestleMania victory, all right, and then becoming the top woman superstar in the women's division and start her reign as SmackDown Women's Champion and running the women's division on SmackDown. Then what I would do after that, I believe the next pay-per-view after that is Money in the Bank. I would do the final Sasha and Bayley match with some kind of stipulation. I'm thinking something like a women's I Quit match, or maybe a women's last woman standing match, something like that, because those two would absolutely kill it and they deserve a stipulation. So then I would have Sasha defeat Bayley at Money in the Bank, and that puts an end on the feud, right? So Bayley wins at Survivor Series, Sasha wins the Women's Royal Rumble, then Sasha wins at WrestleMania, and then Sasha ends the feud by getting one more victory at Money in the Bank. So that's the second scenario. It's interchangeable. Either you have Sasha return at Survivor Series, or you have Sasha return at the Royal Rumble and win the Women's Royal Rumble. All right, I would do something like that. So those are two different scenarios, two different paths, right? Two different paths, and I have no problem with either one of them. Personally, I would want Sasha to either return at Survivor Series or have Sasha return at the Royal Rumble. Like I said earlier, it would be hard for me to deal without Sasha on television for those months, but there's a bigger story here, and I think we can all agree, and I don't think anybody's going to complain, because we know Sasha and Bayley are going to put on some of the best matches we've ever seen. Will those matches be able to duplicate and possibly, counter what they did at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn back in 2015, or their NXT Unstoppable Iron Woman match? Who knows? It's going to depend on if we have fans and things like that. But clearly, Sasha and Bayley are going to kill it whenever they do have their match. But that's the way I would fancy book it. I've seen other scenarios like if Sasha gets drafted to Raw, maybe they do something like that. I'm not going to complain really. Because, you could go down the direction of Sasha doing everything in her power to get back to SmackDown to get after Bayley. Remember, we've seen Becky do that when she was trying to get after Ronda Rousey, when she was a SmackDown superstar challenging Ronda Rousey before they did the whole winner-take-all thing. You could also potentially maybe do something like Sasha wins the Raw Women's Championship back, even though I'm not a big fan of that. I don't really want to see that, Sasha wins the Raw Women's Championship, and then at WrestleMania we get a winner-take-all scenario with Sasha versus Bayley, winner-take-all, Raw and SmackDown Women's titles on the line. That could be something I could get invested in, but I don't see it as likely. Plus, I don't like it as much as the other scenarios. But at the end of the day, this feud, of course, needs to end, I think, at WrestleMania with Sasha on top, beating Bayley, getting her first WrestleMania victory, becoming Grand Slam Blake's, and going on to get a long reign as champion. The reign that she's been deserving of for a year. We've seen Becky get a 1-year title reign. We've seen Charlotte have 12 reigns, which she doesn't deserve, but she's gotten it. And we've seen Bayley be champion for all this time. As long as this ends with Sasha on top as that stone cold, badass babyface, finally getting the long reign that she deserves, I'm not going to complain. And I'm very excited because right now we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if Sasha's going to return at Hell in a Cell. We don't know if I don't see her returning at Clash of Champions, but it's a possibility. I want to do that. But, the most likely scenario right now, knowing because WWE doesn't have patience, they're probably going to have Sasha return at Hell in a Cell. Probably that's what's going to happen, right? But we don't know. Sasha could return at Hell in a Cell. She could return at Survivor Series. She could return at the Women's Royal Rumble. It's going to be interesting to see. But I am very excited to see how it all goes, and I am very excited to see how the Sasha Bayley feud goes, all right? But let me know what you guys think. I believe I'm the king of fantasy booking. I've done this so many times. I made a video a couple months ago on how I would book Sasha and Bayley as double champions, but clearly WWE did not go down that direction, even though I'm disappointed. But still, hopefully they can make up for it with the Sasha and Bayley feud. And we know Sasha and Bayley, they do have a role in how this story gets told. I feel like they do have a little bit of creative input on how this story gets told. And I'm very excited to see how it all goes down. But definitely, man, we're finally getting the Sasha and Bayley feud. I am hyped for it. I cannot wait to see where it goes. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought of my fantasy booking. Do you guys agree? Well, let me know in the comment section what's your scenarios. What fantasy booking scenarios do you have? Definitely, I'm going to look at what you guys got. I'm going to comment like I always do, and let's talk about it. But at the end of the day, right now, a little bit of a Dragon Ball Z reference, but Sasha Banks, she's at home. She's in the regeneration chamber. You guys know the regeneration chamber from the Frieza saga back on Namek that Goku and Vegeta were both in. But Sasha right now, she's in the regeneration chamber. She's getting back to full health, and then she's gonna come back and beat the bricks off Bayley, and we're gonna get an amazing feud ending with Sasha becoming SmackDown Women's Champion. Finally getting that long reign. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Please leave a like on the video if you guys enjoy. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, enable notifications by clicking the bell right next to my name, Fitzmonk TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. Follow me down on social media if you guys want to talk a little bit more about Sasha and all these other things like wrestling and anime. I'll keep you guys updated with everything going on with Sasha Banks. If we get any big news on her return, I'll let you guys know right here on the podcast first. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this extra episode of the Legit Podcast. We went about 40 minutes. Like I said, I could have easily gone another 20. But let me know what you guys thought. Other than that, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. Have a great day, guys. Peace.